Good afternoon. I'm Barbara Schreiner Trudell, and this is The Joy Show. I'm so glad you're here. Joy for me is an acronym which stands for just one you. I think living your authentic life, your authentic way in whatever works for you is the very best thing you could do in the world today. So I'm glad you're here. And let's begin with a land acknowledgement. We work, live, and play. I work, live, and play on the traditional and historical territory of many Indigenous nations, including the Anishinaabe, the Wendat, and more recently, the Mississaugas of the Credit and the Haudenosaunee nations. Toronto is home to many diverse First Nation, Métis, and Inuit people. We recognize our oneness, we realize our history, and we choose to create a new reality. Well, my guest today is having a little trouble logging on, but hopefully will be here very, very shortly. And it is T Jhaz. He is a notable blues, jazz, Afro Caribbean soul musician with astounding credits. He's a two-time Juno Award winner as a co composer, working in collaboration, has worked with a list of illustrious artists. His music is delightful. It will enlighten your soul with beautiful melodies and lyrics that touch deeply and really can make your heart sing. His music is beautiful. Thoughtful rhythms to snap your fingers to and move your feet. T Jhaz brings together a collage of cultures and musical styles: soul, jazz, soca, funk, gospel, reggae, and Afro Caribbean. That's quite the collection. Born in Antigua, West Indies, into an early musical life of pop, gospel, jazz, and island melodies, his family moved to Canada when T Jhaz was a teen. Schooling included being professional and creative. He studied at Grant MacEwan Performing Arts College in training with George Kohler, Charlie Austin, and Bob Cairns. Many projects stemmed from his professionalism and diversity. T Jhaz is currently been doing some work with Cherie Marshall, and their music is truly, truly outstanding. So I think Deja has a little clip of a piece of his music. So let's take a listen. We're having a little internet. Okay, the internet is giving us some challenges today. Well, that was lovely, the little bits we could get. I don't know about yours streaming, but mine was definitely a little broken up, which is unfortunate. So my beloved guest is not here yet. Hopefully he'll show up soon. But in the meantime, let's just talk about life. Let's talk about what's going on in the world today. I was checking out some things. I'm doing the good news tonight on the New Thought Media Network. And as I was looking up news stories that are positive and beautiful, I really came across something that intrigued me, and that was the interests of Americans, the top interests these days. And one of them was about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that's a really big topic on the table these days. And I think it's a really important one. Learning to really love and accept each other, to admire and be respectful and kind, I think is really important if we expect to create a world that is productive. I think the dissension that sometimes goes on, the ideas of separation that seem to be so pronounced, those are the very things that affect us in every aspect: our health, our economics, our relationships for sure. And the world at large is struggling in many ways. And so I think it's time for us to find a way to hold conversations that are respectful, but we don't necessarily have to agree with one another. I think that's a really important thing to do, is to sit down with somebody that you completely disagree with and hear them, listen to them, hear what they have to say, and then share your views as well. I think as we do that with respect and kindness, I think we begin to move forward in a way that will assist all of us in creating greater harmony, love, and joy in our world. And I think that's what most of us would like to see: a little bit of happiness, or maybe a lot of happiness, some collaboration and cooperation. So I'm really excited about what it is that we can do. And I'm working for an organization right now as I'm on their board of trustees, board of directors, and we are working toward creating this environment, starting at the very top governance level, of anti-Black racism, anti-Indigenous racism, to eradicate that completely, to get rid of stigma around diseases and disorders, to create a place of acceptance and love and appreciation for everybody, regardless of where they are economically, where they are health wise, where they are in relationship, to come to a place of going, how can we make a lasting difference in our organization, but also in the world at large? And that for me is really, really exciting work. So we're beginning the process tomorrow with a sacred fire, and I'm just super excited to see where that goes and what that brings up. And I know that all of us have our little issues about life and what we like or don't like, what we find acceptable or unacceptable. And it's going to be interesting to see the type of things that come up in our group as we go through this process of really shifting the way we look at life and the world and how we show up in it. And I know a number of organizations that I'm working with right now are talking about inclusivity and what that means. And when I think of inclusivity, I go, in theory, yeah, I'm all for it. And everybody I talk to, yeah, I'm all for it. But then you think about some of the things where that might not be true. Showing up at church, for example, and having somebody sit down beside you who um, maybe has been living on the street for many, many months or years or whatever, and maybe hasn't bathed recently. How are you going to deal with that? Are you still going to be inclusive, respectful, kind, compassionate, or are you going to get up and move? So I think we have to look at, are we willing to be uncomfortable in order to be inclusive? Are we willing to explore our own set of beliefs and biases in order to be truly loving and accepting of the people around us? Can we look at the world through a new lens and begin to see the value of cooperation and collaboration rather than this battle to be first or to be right? So I'm just kind of looking at the world around me going, what is it that we can do? What is it we need to do? And we got a little bit of work ahead of us, I think. But we're talking about it these days, which really excites me. The fact that we're having conversations, that we're sharing opinions. I remember watching a TED Talk a little while ago, a gentleman by the name of Daryl Davis, who is a Black man, a musician in the US, and he sat down with the head of the KKK in his area, and I thought, wow, that's really something. And he actually attends KKK rallies, and I thought, whoa, how do you do that? And he talked about the fact that with him sitting down with the head of the KKK in his area, he was able to have a conversation. Obviously, they disagreed on things, but they actually had a respectful conversation. And that led to many, many more conversations. And so I think when you look at something like that, because of course, a Black man and KKK, they don't quite go together. But what's interesting is that he was willing to listen and to share. And I think when we can come together respectfully, when we can honor who we are and at the same time honor someone else's opinion, somebody else's thoughts, I think that's when we really start to create a world that really does start working for the highest and best good of all people here. Fiona just put a note in the chat, moving forwards cognizant that a contradiction in individual mind is a movement in collective or universal mind, of course. Uncomfortable to be comfortable on a larger scale. Yeah, yeah. It's like, can I can I sit in whatever's not quite fitting for me, but in a way that allows it to move, to shift, to become something more, something different. I think it's a really, really great place to start, where we meet people that we don't know, that we willingly sit down and have conversations. I had an opportunity, I think it was a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. My great grandson was in town. And so I took him for a ride on the subway, which they don't have in Calgary. So we were riding around and we met a gentleman who was playing steel pan in the subway. And my grandson was just so delighted by this. He thought this was the best thing ever. And so the gentleman was teaching him how to play, and so he was having a good time with him. And when it ended, he sat back and said, wow, I would really like to give you, I have $6 and I'd really like to give it to you, but I left it at home. And I thought, how endearing is that we have a 6-year-old who's going, I have $6 in my home in Calgary and I'm in Toronto, but I really would like to give it to you. I think there's a sweetness to that I'm really hopeful will stay with him for his whole life, and that we will somehow, some way, um, move around so that we can create something that is more harmonious, um, something beautiful. Like, can we create beauty out of the chaos? And I believe we can. I believe it's possible. Now, I just got a little note from my producer that my guest cannot log in, but we're going to see if we can get him on the phone and talk to him that way, because he really is a very interesting man. And so we'll see what happens. See what Deja can do here, if she can make that happen. And in the meantime, we'll just keep chatting. What I love about New Thought and the work that we do in this form of spirituality, the science of mind, is to really come to understand how our thinking creates the world that we live in. And that if anything in our life looks to be out of whack or disconnected in some way, that we have the ability to begin to go back within and find out what it is in us that is discordant. What is it in us that is ready to be shifted, so that we can begin to create a new reality? And I love that we can do that. I don't know about you, but I changed my life coming into Science Mind. It was a remarkable journey of being a very disturbed and unhappy individual to finding my way to peace and joy. And it didn't happen in a minute. It did take some effort and some time of meditation and spiritual mind treatment to get to this place of joy. All right, let's see if this works. Hey, T Jhaz, are you there? Oh, I lost him. I don't know what happened. Well, we'll just keep trying. We'll see where we go. The energy of life and living is about just sort of accepting wherever we're at. T Jazz, do I have you? No, I keep losing him. I'm not sure why. That's, sometimes you just got to go with the flow. It's a great lesson. What I'll end up doing is having T Jazz on my show next week. I think he's in town for another week. He's from Antigua. So hopefully, hopefully I can have him on next week if this doesn't work today. The ideas of science of mind it's really powerful to begin to think about how the mind creates. And even when we go back to the Bible, it says in the book of John, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word has power. The Word was with God. And when I think about that, I think about the words that we use, the way we speak. Oh, I'm so sick and tired. Okay. I'm so broke. Oh, I hate this. I hate that. I hate the other thing. And I think sometimes those conversations we go, well, it's just words. And maybe we don't speak them. Maybe we only think them. And oh, they're just words. Those words have power. And when we begin to look at how we want to create our lives and begin to look at the energy that we put into life, we start to see the payback. What happens? I remember years ago working with a gentleman who had cancer. Yeah, yay, Fiona, religious science practitioner. Beautiful, beautiful. I've been a practitioner for a long time. I've been a minister actually for 24 years. And I love it as much today, maybe even more than when I first became a minister or a practitioner. So, but I remember working with somebody years ago who was dying of cancer, had lung cancer, gentleman in his 30s. And he came, I was in practitioner training at the time, and he came to me for a healing treatment. And I went, awesome, we'll heal this guy's life. And we sat down to chat. He said to me, he said, I just want it to be okay. And I was stopped in my tracks there because I thought he was coming to me for healing. And what he did was he came to me for the people around him to be okay with his passing. And I really wasn't prepared for that at the early stages of practitioner training. But what it did for me was to shift my perspective. You know how sometimes we think we know what's best for somebody else? We think we know what somebody else wants. I'm here to tell you, we do not. We have no idea what another person wants, what another person needs. And in that moment, I got that lesson. And the other lesson I got is, people will ask me to do treatment for a family member, a spouse, whatever. And I will treat for their highest and best good. Because unless they've asked me for a specific treatment, I won't do one. Like I've had women come to me going, treat for my husband to be nicer, I'm like, I can't do that. I can't do that unless your husband comes to me and says, treat for me to be a happier person or more happy in my marriage. I can't do that. I'm not going to interfere with the stream of consciousness of another individual, but I will do treatment for their highest and most beautiful expression of life and living, whatever that is for them. Because each one of us is living in a stream of consciousness. Each one of us has a life that matters to us. And we have different ways of discovering what really works for us in the best and most possible way. And I think it's important to be really respectful of that. So, as we're doing treatment for people, and for anybody who doesn't know, spiritual mind treatment could be, it's similar to affirmative prayer. But treatment is very specific. And the way Ernest Holmes created it is so powerful. And I've used it so often and watched the most remarkable things occur. I mean, one, I healed my own life. Secondly, I've worked with many people who've healed their lives as a result of the work we've done together. A friend of mine was dying of AIDS, and I do mean dying, down to 90 pounds, soaking wet, and struggling. And did treatment with him. And when we did treatment together, I always ask two questions. What do you want? And how would you feel emotionally if you had it? Well, his answer was, I want to live. Now, this is going back when people got AIDS and died, right? Now there's treatments, it's a little different, but back then, not so much. So this was in the 90s. When he said that, I said, oh, okay. And, tell me more about that. He said, well, I've always been afraid of living. I've never been afraid of dying. So again, I was getting a message that was absolutely not what I expected. And then he sat back and he said, I've never felt so loved. I've never felt so blessed. And he said, I am so grateful for this disease. And I went, wow, okay, we can treat about that. So we treated for him to live. And within a couple of weeks, he'd gained 18 pounds. Within 4 months, he was back to work. And then when they were testing his blood 6 months later, they weren't detecting it. And so they were redoing tests all over the place because it didn't make sense. The healing occurred because he had clearly changed his mind. He had clearly decided that there was something that was important to him, and he was willing to create something new. So we go back to what I said in the beginning, that the words that we use, the words that we think, have power, and these words are creating the manifestations in our life and in our world. And so if there's an area that's really blocked and stopped, what we want to do is pay attention to that and just ask ourselves, what do I need? What would I require to make this different? Or what do I truly desire? And am I willing? Am I willing to pay the price for what it is I say I want? Yeah, exactly. Like Fiona says, personally use and share treatments daily. Affirmative methodological prayer is the key. And it really is, there's a method. It's like we recognize there's a power in the universe, that it's infinite, eternal, everywhere present, and that it is love, it is law. We recognize that because it's everywhere, it's got to be here. I'm one with it. And then we go into a realization step where we realize and state in the affirmative present tense, whatever it is that we truly are seeking to shift, change, alter, create, whatever the case may be. We do it first person positive, absolutely present tense, right? It's a here and now reality, because we recognize everything in the universe is already here, and we just need to be willing to accept it. And then we go into gratitude, and then we go into release. And it is those 5 steps that allow us to change our thinking, to change our mind. We might be looking at life in the world and going, oh man, this sucks. Well, if we say that, that's going to be the reality. And of course, we have a habit of using the I am in a very negative way. And I want to suggest strongly that we not do that. I am divine. I am one with the infinite. I am truly a glorious being of love and light, and I am perfect, whole, and complete. Now, I might be having a struggle, or there may be a struggle in my body, or maybe there appears to be something out here that I'm not crazy about. But the truth is, I am perfect, whole, and complete, one with this infinite source. And because I'm one with it, I have within me the power, the presence, the possibility. So we begin to really own that energy, that, wait a minute, I am the right person at the right time doing all the right stuff. And I pay attention to my thoughts. Because sometimes we're living in doubt and fear. We're listening to the news too much. And we're going, oh my goodness, the world is falling apart. Okay. What would be something a little better to think about that or say about that is, let me see. This looks discordant. Looks like it's out of whack a little bit. What in me do I need to shift in order to see a renewal, a pattern of wholeness? What do I need to do within my mind to begin to see something different? Because we only see what we believe. Some people will say, oh, I'll believe it when I see it. No, 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 no. You will see it when you believe it. And that's the big trick. We take a look at the fact that, The Secret, and we look at the law of attraction and all these things that are going on around the world. And it's like, wow, that sounds so great. I'll make a vision board and ta-da, everything beautiful will happen. And it might, if I believe it, if I believe it's possible. But if in the back of my mind, I go, whoa, that would be so nice if that happened. Well, wouldn't that be great? And then when it doesn't happen in 4 minutes, what's the next thing that often we hear people say? Well, it must not have been God's will. I've heard these things many, many, many times, and I'm here to tell you that you are one with this infinite power and presence. Call it God, call it spirit, call it universe, call it first cause, regardless of the name you call it divine mind. Whatever you call it, just know that it says yes. It says yes. In the subjective consciousness, there is not a no, there is only a yes. What we plant comes forth. What we plant comes forth according to our own consciousness, according to what we believe. So I invite you to really double check yourself when you're going, doing an affirmation for wealth or for love or for peace. And then in the back of your mind, you go, yeah, but that probably won't happen. Oh man, that's kind of a lofty dream. I don't think that can occur. We have that doubting mind, and that eliminates the power of the treatment that we just did or the affirmation that we just did. So we have to think about what we're thinking about, what we're believing to be true, and what we believe is possible for us. Because far too often we go, well, that's unrealistic. And I think it was Einstein who said, if the idea at first is not absurd, there is no hope for it. And on that note, let us take a short commercial break and we'll be right back. I'm Barbara Schreiner Trudell, and this is The Joy Show.
New Thought Media Network is on the rise. We're looking to grow with you. Do you have technical media experience or perhaps a desire to learn? Are you willing to volunteer your precious time and attention? We share this message to benefit all. If you possess a computer with a camera and a microphone, we will share our knowledge with you. Behind the scenes or being the star, let us bless our one. Contact us at info@ntmedia.org.
Watch me change when you change the way you look at things. The things you look at change. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Well, we're having an interesting conversation today, a little sidetracked. My guest was having some difficulty logging in, so we'll have T Jhaz back next week. So this is the Joy Show, and joy for me is an acronym meaning just one you. And I really believe that as each and every one of us comes to terms with who we really are, rather than the masks we've been wearing or the ways we've been hiding, there is something absolutely magnificent that occurs and is very, very exciting. So I invite you to, really check in with yourself and ask if you're judgmental or critical of who you are, or if you're accepting and loving of who you are. And thank you, Fiona. Yeah, Carol and I have a blast doing Spirit Cafe. It is such a great time having these courageous conversations that, sometimes can push buttons. But I think it's important that we have them. So the ideas of living authentically and honestly, of speaking the truth, I really think we should tell the truth and do it quickly. It's so often in our journey with life and living, we will behave in a way that really isn't creating for us what we say we desire. And we might be treating all the time, doing treatment or affirmations for love or for peace or for joy or whatever it is that we're treating for. And then in the back of our mind, we're undoing it. And the way we undo it, I had a friend years ago who was really wanting a love relationship. And so we were talking about that one day, and I'd been treating with her for a long time about it. And so I was going, so what is it about this that it's not happening? What do you think is the block? And she said, oh, all men are jerks. I went, well, there's a problem. So I gave her an assignment, and the assignment was at the end of every day to find at least three things that she could be grateful for about men. I mean, if you want to be in a relationship with a man, but you think all men are jerks, and you don't want to be in a relationship with a jerk, well, there's sort of a disconnect there. And so she worked at that, and we talked a couple days later, and she goes, "Oh man, that's the hardest work I've ever done." She said, "I couldn't think of anything." And she said finally she decided that she was grateful for the way some men look in a pair of jeans. That was her starting point of gratitude. And I thought that's beautiful. And then she began to look at, figures that are more high profile that she really liked their consciousness or the way they were, and was able to then sit back and go, "Oh wow, I really like Wayne Dyer and his energy, and I really like, you know, this person or that person," and began to see qualities within them that she could be grateful for. And soon thereafter, she met a beautiful, lovely man. And so we want to just observe our lives, not to be judgmental or critical about what we've created or where we're at, but to go, I am where I am, and where I am is where I need to start. And so if I can be honest about where I am, maybe I'm fearful, maybe I'm looking at the world around me and I'm feeling like there's no hope. That's a dark place to live. And if I'm living there, my life is going to reflect it. There's going to be anxiety, depression, there's going to be frustration. I was reading when I was researching for good news for tonight's good news show, came across one that talked about meditation and how meditation, people who meditate actually are able to clear things like depression and anxiety through the practice of meditation. So what we teach in Science of Mind is the power of your mind to create. That's what we teach. See, really the only thing we teach. And we teach, do treatment. Again, it's a way of speaking truth into life and creating a greater sense of harmony and possibility. We practice meditation, which is a way of just being rather than doing all the time. Do you ever find yourself doing, 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 doing? It's exhausting. So the being present, allowing yourself to just sort of settle into a time in the day, whether it's 20 minutes, 30 minutes, half an hour, like allowing yourself to be in that quiet. Visioning is a great exercise. I love the visioning process that the Reverend Dr. Michael Beckwith came up with, that, you do that process of seeing a different reality and really embodying and embracing it, but allowing yourself to allow a vision to come forth, to be birthed in you. And by simply being, that divine, still small voice can speak to us, and we might hear it. If we're sitting still and quiet, we can hear that message that's coming. And if we follow it as it's presented, we begin to see remarkable things happen in our lives. Now, sometimes we get an idea and we go, "Yeah, I ain't doing that." Are you kidding me? You think I could do that? There's no way. I don't know how to do that. And we've sort of got into a place of forgetting that we are part of an infinite creative intelligence. And we don't need to know how something's going to happen. We just have to have the dream and the willingness to take that next step. Take that, there's a saying here of treat and move your feet, right? We do treatment and then there's an action that needs to follow it. There's something that we're going to be compelled to do. And if we don't do it, the treatment is null and void, truly. So we want to make sure that we're moving with the energy of the universe and allowing ourselves to, fall in love with ourselves, our own creativity, our own intelligence, and then to move forward with great joy and appreciation, like begin to look at life from a new vantage point of being something more than what we think we're stuck with. When I came into this teaching, oh man, I felt so broken. Anybody else do that? Come to this teaching feeling like, oh man, there's no hope. And what was interesting is very quickly, as I began to practice, because life sucked. So I was like, I was willing to practice. I was willing to do anything that might make it different, better, whatever. And it was so wonderful to be able to sit back and go, let me try something new, right? You've heard the definition of insanity, doing the same things over and over again, expecting a different result. Well, I interrupted everything. I just went, no, everything I do doesn't work. So let me do something else. And I began to change the way I showed up. I began to change how I looked at things. I began to change the way I would think about life and the journey and people. And as I did that, I began to see the possibility that life held for me, the opportunities that had always been there, of course, but that I had been unwilling or unable to see because I was so caught up in the drama of life and the poor me and my victim state that I was in. But when I released that, oh my gosh, then the magic happened. The magic happened when I took responsibility for the life I was living and decided that I could change it. Guess what happened? Change. Just like in Spirit Cafe, that song, Change by Karen Drucker. It's a great song. That idea of change, it happens when we're conscious about where we really are. We're willing to, put some rubber to the road and start to move forward. We're willing to try something new, to create an opportunity that maybe we hadn't thought of before, or we're willing to take a risk. When I moved to Toronto in 2000 to start the Center for Spiritual Living here, I came with $40, a one-way ticket to Hamilton, which is about an hour from here, hour and a half, and 2 suitcases of summer clothes and my laptop. That's what I came with. Never lived on the street, managed to get things rolling and moving and to create something here, and created CSL Toronto. The interesting thing about that journey is that everything fell into place, right? There was a desire within me that was so strong, I could not deny it. It was pulling me. And from the time I originally had the idea, which was my first day of my very first Science Mind class in 1993, to when I actually moved here in July of 2000, that's 7 years. And in that 7 years, the dream never wavered. I knew I was coming to Toronto to bring Science of Mind here. I knew I was doing that. And what I had to do to prepare was do all my training, which took 5 years, become a minister. And then once I was graduated, I sat back and went, it's not happening. And I ended up going to Vernon, BC. It was the first church that I was in, the first center I was in. And I was there for 18 months when the call came, that call that comes and right through your consciousness and goes, move. That came after a year and a half of being in Vernon. And it was time for me to move to Toronto at that time. And coming here was the best thing I'd ever done. I met my husband here. I had my 4th child here. And I'm now working on the second church here. The first one, I left when my father died. I needed a break. We'll put it that way. And so I let that go, and somebody else took it over. And since then, it's been dissolved. And then I got a call last year from head office going, so want to start another one? So here we are, CSL on the Lake. I love what I do, and I love the work I do. And even the 10 years that I was away from CSL, I wasn't away from ministry. I became an ordained Unity minister. I turned around and I was working in a UFBL church, which is also an offshoot of Unity. And so for the 11 years, I was working in other New Thought organizations doing the very same work. And it was exciting. Thank you, Fiona. It was exciting to learn new things. In UFBL, I learned about the Bible. I didn't have that training. I wasn't raised with the Bible. I didn't need to recover I was able to step into new thought with a really clear mind because I didn't have anything to oppose it. And when I learned about the Bible, it was fascinating to me because it's like, huh, who knew? It's a library. I thought it was a book. But I learned the metaphysical interpretations of things. I discovered the history of the time, the fact that people were nomads, and I discovered a rich awareness of something that I'd had no knowledge of before. And that was really inviting to me. That was very exciting. And then coming back to CSL, I am just stoked because this journey is so powerful and it's such a rich teaching and it's such an intelligent teaching. And I think that's what I love the most about it is that people eat it up. It's like when they hear it for the first time, it's like, yes, yeah, that feels right. That feels good. And yes, Wayne, you're right. That golden bubble of peace. Yeah, we can live in that place of peace. We can live in that place of excitement and delight. We can live with a real knowing of our oneness with other people. And goes back to the beginning conversation that I said about diversity and inclusion and stuff. When we get it, that we are one with this infinite power and presence, this intelligence back of the universe, when we get that, we also get, I'm one with you and you're one with me. There can be no separation because there's only one thing going on. And if there's only one thing going on, why would I resist you? That would be resisting an aspect of me. So I know we're just morphing into a whole new reality with all of this spirituality going, what does it mean and what is it and what can I do with it and how can I use it? Because I don't think of what we do as religion. I think the government thinks of us as religion, but I don't. I think of us as a spiritual expression of our natural state, a willingness to be present in that dance with the universe that allows us to flow and to be and to become and to create whatever it is we choose to create, whatever it is that we desire. If we believe it's possible, it comes to pass. And by using treatment and meditation, gratitude and forgiveness and finding love for ourselves, we begin to empower ourselves to really live a very remarkable life. And it doesn't mean we're rich or that there's never a bump in the road. It just means that we glide over those bumps a whole lot easier and we don't worry about wealth. We live in a harmony with the universe, knowing our needs are met. And they are. They are. It's fascinating to me how that all happens, that we can be in a state of, maybe lack of this or that or the other thing, and then all of a sudden something happens that moves it forward for us and brings back into our place, our beingness, whatever it is that we needed. And that to me is so exciting. It thrills me completely to know that every one of us is powerful. Every one of us is powerful. Every one of us is powerful. There isn't one powerful person in the universe. Every single person. Fiona and Wayne, who are on this call, and anybody else who's listening in, I'm here to tell you, you were created unique and special. And your version of unique and special is required by the universe at this particular point in time. That who you are, what you do, and how you do it is essential to the unfolding of humanity in our world right now. There are no accidents or mistakes, that you are here for some incredible reason. And so it's up to each one of us to figure out who we really are and be that. Everybody else is taken. So be you. Be who you are. Find your path, your purpose. Discover the essence of life that's flowing within you. I was reading yesterday the Sermon by the Sea that Ernest Holmes gave in 1959. And as I was listening to what those words felt like as I read them, I thought, oh my gosh, that was his letter of goodbye. That was his really his final words to us, to keep things simple, to allow the flow to be there and to be willing to move with that. It's a really powerful a really powerful sermon. And of course, we know he died the next year. And in the sermon, he talked about, we don't know if we'll be here next year. We may not be here next year. And I thought, wow, and he wasn't. It's sort of, it touched me in ways that I hadn't expected. I had read it or heard it spoken by other ministers numerous times, and it was interesting for me to receive it in a new way. I was teaching the Essential Earnest Homes yesterday, and so that book, the sermon, is in the back of the book. It's exciting to imagine life from a new vantage point instead of coming from the place of victim, from the, oh, poor me, the idea of I'm less than, to a place of empowered bliss and joy and love, going, wow, I'm one with the universe. I'm one with all that is. And who I am and what I am is essential to life at this time, just like everybody else. Just like everybody else. There isn't a single person on the planet who isn't serving a remarkable purpose in our evolution. I look at people who are living on the street, but by the grace of God, I'm not there. That's how I look at it, right? It doesn't take too much to fall. So I look at that and I go, wow. And I'll take time to talk to people because I would want people to talk to me. I want people to be kind to me. And I think I was in Calgary a year ago. Yes, Wayne, I was in Calgary, born and raised there, actually. But I was there visiting my son, and we were walking along Stephen Avenue Mall. It's an outdoor mall in downtown. And a woman comes along with her buggy and her possessions in it and asking for change. And so I went in my pocket and grabbed what I had, and we got chatting a little bit. And she went, wow, you're being so nice to me. And I went, well, of course I am being nice to you. Why wouldn't I be? And she said people have spit at her and told her to go get a job, go get a life, get away from me, like just being really, really mean to her. And I looked at her and I said, but by the grace of God, I could be you. So why would I treat you that way? Right? And she was emotional with that. I was emotional with that because I thought, how is it that we can justify being mean to other people? Why is it that we think that's okay? That if somebody's downtrodden, we can step on them or give them a kick. I think there's some healing that needs to happen within our own consciousness so that we can be what we are created to be, which is a light in the world. And when I look at Science of Mind, I see that as an opportunity to be that light, to really acknowledge and know it's not separate from me. It's not out there somewhere. It is what I am. And I allow myself then to express that light, that love, that peace, wherever I am. My youngest daughter was talking about sitting on the subway and, whatever seat she would choose, she would stay there. And she sat down one day beside someone who had not bathed in quite some time. And she said the smell was really strong, but she said there's no way I would get up and move because she said that would be, it would be disrespectful to the person. Like somehow you're not good enough for me to sit beside or whatever. And I thought that's a great consciousness for somebody who's 17 to be at that place of, I want to be respectful of all people I come in contact with. Not just the ones I approve of or the ones that I like or my best friends, but all people that I come in contact with. And there's a peacefulness about that allows us to live far more harmoniously with each other and to create community that is really remarkable. And we have that ability. And when I think about diversity and equity and inclusion, I go, yeah, that's a no-brainer. We shouldn't even have to talk about that. I was teaching a prosperity class last night, and in conversation with one of the women, we were talking about her experience as a woman and women, because women are still, in some ways put down. Well, she's a Black woman. So she said it's even more suppressed. And I remember talking to a transgender Black man who said that after his transition, he felt he had a level of privilege And I went, wow, a Black man saying he's privileged. That's that's an unusual comment. And I thought, how bad must it be for Black women? And as my student was talking about her experience, I thought, whew, we got some work to do. We've got some work to do. And it's as we journey along and begin to see each other as us. You know, when I look at you, I'm looking at an aspect of me. When you look at me, you are looking at an aspect of you. When we start to recognize our oneness, our connection, that allows us to then begin to make a shift, a really marked shift, that all of a sudden I cannot say or do anything that could cause you harm knowingly. I mean, I might trip and say something I shouldn't, but I'm not knowingly going to go out of my way to harm you with my words or my actions, because that in fact is harming myself. And I'm learning to love me, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try to live my life in a way that honors my existence, that honors your existence, and that honors the fact that we together are creating a world that does work for the highest and best good of all concerned. Every one of us. There has to be a place for everyone. And that's, yes, Wayne, you're right. Harm no one, live well. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the energy that I think life is calling for right now when it comes to our planet, when it comes to our relationships, when it comes to our wealth and our health. I think a lot of our health issues are coming from our disconnection from our bodies. It's like we haven't noticed that my thinking harms my body. I mean, think about it for a second. You're on the highway, somebody cuts you off, and you fly into a rage. Well, what's happened to you physically? There's a huge adrenaline rush. And I think what happens in the long run is that the life expectancy has been plummeted into the basement. I mean, think about what it's doing to the heart. There's an energy within our bodies. Listening to the 24-hour news cycle and all the negativity that comes with that. What's that? What is the message? When we know our words have power, what is the message that that's giving to our body and to our relationships and to our life? Are we going out into the world filled with fear and anxiety because, hey, wait a minute, this guy went out and hurt all these people? Or are we recognizing that, yeah, there are problems in our world without a doubt, but I'm not going to participate in it. I'm not going to participate in it. So I don't watch the news. Interestingly, I always hear what's going on. Somebody will tell me, but I don't watch the news and I don't listen to the news. And I especially don't listen to things like political debates because I never get any information from them. Oh yes, don't talk about religion and politics. And I talk about both. What I really don't like about political debates is it's always one guy saying what the other guy did, and then the other guy saying what the other guy did or woman did. And it's like, but somebody, would you please just tell me what you're going to do? So I have an idea of how to vote intelligently. I need to find out what your platform actually is. And it never seems to come out in a debate. I get frustrated by that. So the news, the media, all of this is like, I take it with a grain of salt because it isn't serving my expansion, my growth, my excitement. Reading books like The Science of Mind, The Art of Abundance by Dennis Merritt Jones, the Essential Ernest Holmes, the You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay, Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh. There's so much great material out there that is inspiring and uplifting. There are movies out there that are quite beautiful and exciting and liberating. There is music that feeds our soul and lifts our spirits. That's where we need to spend our time. That's, we need to look in the face of a baby and just giggle because, man, they're cute. They're just, there's nothing better than a little baby, maybe 6, 8 months old, who goes into a fit of laughter. It is the richest sound in the universe. That infectious laughter that a little baby can have sometimes is just, it rocks my world every time I hear it. And so when I'm watching YouTube videos, or, my husband is sharing a TikTok with me, those are usually the ones he shares. Those and animals doing fun and funny things. We're on a journey, and the journey is of self-expression. The journey is of being who we were created to be, of finding a way to love and accept ourselves as we are, where we are, and to move forward, knowing that as I honor the life of the people around me, I honor my life too. And so we're working toward a peaceful world. We're working toward finding joy in our own lives. And as we do that, we actually create something remarkable in the world around us. And that excites me. That excites me so much. So I invite you to find you. Find your essence. Forget what you were told as a child. Forget all the times you were told no, or that you were bad, or you shouldn't do that. Just ignore all of it. It's time to forget. It's time to lay down those old messages and create some new ones. Look at your natural gifts and talents. Allow yourself to speak truth into life. Speak truth to stupid. First time I heard that comment, I just went, oh, I like that. Because there's messages out there that aren't serving us, that aren't serving any good in our world. I remember as a young person watching war movies and reading books about war. And I was doing that because I was trying to figure out how adult human beings could think that you could get to peace through war. And so I kept watching this stuff, and I'm trying to find the thread that would make it make sense. And finally, in my 20s, I went, it doesn't. This is idiocy at the max. This doesn't work. Killing people, hurting people, that is not how we get to peace. Peace is a state of mind that I choose moment by moment, regardless if my day is good or what I would call bad. If there are bumps in the road or not, peace is my natural state of being that I can allow myself to be. And when I forget, because I will, when I forget, to gently, lovingly go, take a breath, bring yourself back, and be who you really are. Part of a divine, intelligent universe filled with love and light. That you have the ability to live to the highest possibility and potential. You can be anything you want to be. You can be rich beyond belief if that's what you want. You can find the love of your life if that's what interests you. You can heal your body so that it's strong and healthy and vibrant and vital again. You can create work that just delights and excites you. All of it's possible. And the only way to get there is to change your thinking. See yourself for who you really are and live life with passion, with purpose, with love, with peace, with joy. Just be you. Everyone else is taken. Thank you so much for joining me today, and have a wonderful week. And next week, we'll have T Jhaz Lewis on to share a little music, a little fun, and a little bit of joy. I love you. God bless you. Namaste.
On behalf of everyone at New Thought Media Network, thank you for being a member of our virtual family. Your financial contributions help share the New Thought message with people from around the world. Please visit and contribute at www.ntmedia.org/donate. New Thought Media Network. Come be you. And please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, peace and blessings.